Before I use the printer, I'm going to wipe it down with a damp cloth to make sure that any dust and debris or leftover chocolate is removed. Insert the SD card into the slot below the screen with the gold side down. Push it all the way in. Next, on the back of the machine, right below the power cord, flip the power switch, and you'll see the main menu appear on the screen. Take one of the silicone sheets and center it on the print bed. Make sure that it's flat on the surface. Obviously, this was washed before use. Next, we're going to load the chocolate into the nozzle and printing tube. To load the chocolate, we need to tilt the print head back so that we can access the nozzle area. And to tilt the print head back, there's a lever in the back on the bottom, right here. This orange lever, if I push it back, it releases the print head so that it will tip backwards. So the lever has been moved back, unlocking the print head, and now I can tilt it down like this. That exposes the interior of the print head, and there's no nozzle or tube in there yet. That's the next step. To load the chocolate into the cartridge, you need a cartridge, a nozzle, and a package of chocolate. This is dark chocolate. So I'm going to open this. It helps to have a pair of scissors. Just snip off the top, and then on the seam of the package, you can rip it open a bit. I'm going to take my nozzle. This is a 0.8 millimeter nozzle. Screw it onto the cartridge, and then just slide the chocolate into the cartridge. If you hold it upright, it will just slide right down. I'll set that aside for a moment. Move back to the printer. We need to put this plunger cap on that piece in there. And to do that, we need to move the plunger forward. On the screen, we'll tap load, unload, and we'll tap unload. And then I'm going to press start and stop, and it will start moving that print head down. And once it's out of the interior of the tube, I'm going to press start and stop again to stop it from moving. Okay, I'm pressing start, stop now. Okay, it's all the way out. As you can see, I'm going to take a clean plunger cap and put it on. It should fit right on there. Now I need to move this back about halfway up the tube, and I'm going to do the reverse of what I just did. So on the screen, instead of unload, I'm going to tap load and then start and stop until the plunger moves halfway up the printing tube. Okay, I'm tapping load, and now I'm tapping start stop. That's sufficient. Now we take our cartridge of chocolate that's already been loaded, and we're going to insert it into the print head as far as it will go. Notice that I've lined up this little square with the hole that it will fit into. On the screen, once again, I'm going to tap load, and then I'm going to tap start stop until the bottom of the nozzle is flush with the print head. I'm tapping start stop now. And I stopped it. Make sure everything is lined up. Start again. Oh, wasn't quite lined up perfectly. Let me see if I can push it in by hand. Yep, there we go. So that's all the way in, nice and flush. Now we take the set screw and screw it into the top. That will keep the nozzle secure in place so that it doesn't move. Now we can tilt the print head back down all the way. And now we're going to flip the switch and back forward so that it locks the print head in place. Before we print, we need to make sure that the nozzle and the printing cartridge is completely warmed up and that all of the chocolate inside is melted uniformly. And to do that, we're going to tap Preheat Chocolate. and then choose the type of chocolate we're using. In this case, we're using dark chocolate, and a timer will appear, a 20-minute timer. That is going to heat up both the nozzle on the bottom and that long steel cartridge at the top that contains the chocolate. And the reason the time is so long is to ensure that all of the chocolate, not just the sides and edges, but all the way through the middle, is completely and uniformly melted to a consistent temperature. The preheat has finished, so we'll tap OK and Done. And now we'll tap Media and choose the file that we want to print. You can see the files listed here. If you tap the arrow, you'll see more files. In this case, I'm going to choose the Love Infill and select and print and yes. Print head will move to the back and then the middle to verify the distance from the print bed, and then it will move again to the back right corner, and the first thing it will do is lay down a pre-extrusion line. So we'll want to pay close attention to that to make sure that chocolate is coming out. And you can see that nothing is coming out. So what we're going to do on the screen is tap stop and yes. And the print head moves to the front left corner of the print bed. To help the chocolate start to flow, to prime the pump, so to speak, on the screen, we're going to tap Load, Unload, then tap Unload, and then tap the Start Stop button. That's a toggle, so if you tap that button once, it'll start extruding chocolate, and when you tap that same button again, it will stop. So you want to pay close attention to the nozzle, and as soon as you see chocolate starting to come out, tap that button again to stop it. You can see the nozzle. I'm going to tap Start Stop, and immediately tap it again, because you can see a nice bead of chocolate has been extruded. On the screen, tap Done, and Print, and Yes, and Print, and Yes. That will restart the print. The nozzle will check the bed leveling, and go to the back right corner and start the pre-extrusion line. So once again, we'll want to pay close attention to make sure chocolate is coming out. And you can see that indeed this time it is. You can see the dotted line has been made solid. The nozzle will move in the other direction to print a second line. And you can see that that one looks good as well. You'll want to pay close attention to the first couple layers of your print, though, to make sure that everything is coming out the way that it should. So far that looks good. The outline of the model is being printed. After a few minutes, the chocolate that has already been printed will be cool enough that you should be able to pick it off. See, there's a little small piece here. I'll use some tweezers to carefully grab that out of the way. And also this bead of chocolate over here. I'll remove that, so there's no chance of it making any unwanted mess. Checking in on our print, we can see that the first layer is looking very good. So we'll let it do its thing and come back later and check on it. On the screen, you can see that the print is 8% complete. It's been printing for 4.5 minutes. In the file name, you can see that we're using the 0.8 millimeter nozzle. The total print time is 43 minutes, and this print uses 28 grams of chocolate. Checking in on our print, you can see the infill pattern on the inside of the model. Looks like it's coming along nicely. And we can see on the screen that the print is 66% done. It's been printing for 34 minutes, so we have a little bit left to go. The print is finished. You can see by the timer that it actually took 51 minutes and 39 seconds, which is a little bit longer than the 43 minutes that was estimated. That's normal. Prints often take a little bit longer than the estimated time. If we look at the finished print, you can see that it's a little rough on the top, but that's fine. In this case, you can also notice that the model was printed upside down, so the smooth surface will be on the bottom, and when we flip this over, it'll look nice and neat. I'm going to carefully remove the mat I have one hand pulling from the front and my second hand is underneath to cradle the print, and I'm going to move it to a flat surface. That technique is especially important if you're printing models in vase mode because the walls will be very delicate. With this print, I'm going to flip it upside down now. And you can see that it has a nice smooth surface. I'll clean it up a little bit and show you the finished product. To start another print, we'll take a fresh, clean mat, place it carefully on the bed. On the screen, we'll select Media, and then select the file that we want to print next, and tap Select, and Print, and Yes. Once again, we're going to be looking for the extrusion line in the back, and in this case, we don't see it, so we're going to tap Stop, and Yes. Then we'll tap Load, Unload, tap Unload, and we'll tap Start and Stop until we see the bead of chocolate come out. And there you can see the bead of chocolate. Tap Done, Print, Yes. We're looking for the bead of chocolate, and there it is coming out. We'll make sure that it continues in the other direction. And it is, so we should be good, but we'll stay and make sure that the first layers of the model are printing correctly. Checking back on our print, we can see that the first layer went down very nice and smooth. Our second print is done. Once again, I'll use two hands to remove the print, one to slide the print bed forward and the other hand to cradle the print itself. And that's especially important for prints like this that are printed in vase mode. You can see how thin and delicate the walls are. We can see that we have a little bit of chocolate left. Usually the printer runs out of chocolate when there's about a finger's worth of space between the bottom of this cap and the top of the print head. You can also keep track of how much chocolate you have left by adding up the grams of chocolate for the models that you've already printed. So far I've used 30 plus 28, that's 58 grams, subtracted from 65 grams, which is what one chocolate core is, leaves me with 7 grams. So I have enough for one small print. I'll carefully slide in a brand new clean print surface. On the screen, I'll tap Media, and I'll look through my prints to see if there are any small ones there. And in fact, the twisted polygon is exactly 7 grams, so I'm going to choose that. Select, Print, Yes. The pre-extrusion line was not coming out, so I stopped the print. Now I'm going to tap Load, Unload, Unload, Start, Stop, until I see a bead of chocolate coming out, which I do. Tap Done, Print, Yes, and we'll wait to see if the pre-extrusion line comes out this time. And indeed it is. And it appears that the first layer of the print is also coming out fine. So we'll come back at the end of the print and see how it worked. The third print is done, but we can see from the top that there's still a little bit of chocolate left in the cartridge. See, there's a little bit more than a finger's worth of space there. So what we're going to do is make sure that the nozzle is out of the way of the print, because we're going to extrude the leftover chocolate, and we want to make sure that the chocolate does not end up on our print. To extrude the leftover chocolate, we'll tap and hold down the extrude button. You can see the excess chocolate being extruded here. It looks like a lot, but actually there's just a couple grams left inside there. Because the stream is so thin, it looks like it's more than it actually is. Eventually you'll see the stream start to slow down, and eventually it will stop. Now I'll use a pair of long-handled tweezers to pull away any chocolate that's still stuck to the nozzle. To remove the nozzle, we'll tilt the print head back. We'll release the back lever and tilt the print head backwards. Wipe as much excess chocolate off the tip of the nozzle as you can. Loosen the set screw and remove it. Now we don't want to remove the nozzle in this position because chocolate may come squirting out all over the place. So we're going to tilt the print head down as we perform the next step. On the screen, tap Load, Unload, tap Unload, and then tap Start, Stop. Once the nozzle is fully out, tap Start, Stop again. Pull out the nozzle and cartridge assembly. The red plunger cap has been removed. It's actually inside the chocolate cartridge. Before we move the printer cartridge back to the upright position, we need to retract the plunger head, otherwise it might bump into the print bed and become damaged. On the screen, we're going to tap Load and then Start Stop. So I'm now tapping Start Stop until the plunger is safely in the cartridge, and then I'll tap Start Stop again. Now I can safely move the printer carriage back to the upright position and use the clip and back to clip it in place. On the screen, we'll tap Done, then tap Menu, then tap Temperature, and you'll see the temperature is still 33 degrees. So we'll tap Cool Down, and you'll notice that the temperature changes to 0. We'll tap Done, and then Done again. And you'll see the temperature for the nozzle and the cartridge body will start to slowly drop down to room temperature. Once room temperature is reached, then it will be safe to turn off the machine using the power switch in the back. For cleanup, you'll want to have handy plenty of paper towels. You'll want your cartridge with a nozzle, a spatula, a plunging tool, the wire brush for cleaning out the cartridge, your tweezers, we'll want to clean those off, and the blue needle. The blue needle is used for cleaning out the 0.8 millimeter nozzle, and the orange needles are used for cleaning out the 1.6 millimeter nozzles. And of course, you'll want your silicone printing mats. We'll start by unscrewing the nozzle from the printer cartridge. And you can see the red plunging cap is inside the nozzle. Sometimes the printer cap is stuck at the bottom of the tube, and that's when we would use the plunger to push it out. We'll put a little bit of dish detergent on the wire brush and remount the cartridge, twisting the brush and rotating the cartridge to make sure we get everything out, and inspect the cartridge to make sure it's nice and clean. Now we'll clean the nozzle. First we'll remove the red plunger cap and clean off the chocolate from the plunger cap. Now the plunger caps can be reused a couple times, but they do lose their shape over time, and that would decrease the seal on the inside of the cartridge, so you don't want to reuse them too often. And they're inexpensive anyway, so you can consider them a consumable. You can use the blue needle to clean out the crevices of the red plunger cap. Now I'm going to clean out the metal nozzle. You can use the blue needle to make sure that all of the chocolate is out of the thinnest part of the nozzle. Use a paper towel with a little bit of dish detergent on it to clean out the inside and the outside of the nozzle and the threads. Make sure those are all nice and clean. And if you use a wet paper towel and squeeze it into the nozzle, you can see water squirting out the other side. That tells you that the thin part of the nozzle is completely cleaned out. For the mats, it's handy to use the spatula to scrape off any chocolate that remains on them. For instance, the pre-extrusion lines just come right off in warm water using the spatula. And if there are any other bits of chocolate anywhere else on the mat, just wash them off roughly at this stage. Now I'm going to take a little bit of dish detergent and clean each of the mats off. Make sure to clean the entire mat. Cover all of the areas where there are any of the oily residue of the chocolate left over. We want them to be nice and squeaky clean. You can also clean off the spatula and your other tools using the dish detergent. I find it helpful to stack the mats one on top of the other with a paper towel in between each one, and then just roll them up into a tube to absorb all of the water. And then you can unroll them and hang them up individually to finish air drying.